Welcome to IELTS CELPIP MasterPrep, your trusted source for real exam-based practice tests. Every test you see here is inspired by current exam trends, and each one comes with full model solutions to help you master every section. Here's our daily schedule. IELTS tests drop every morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, and CLP tests every evening at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. No matter which exam you're preparing for, we've got you covered every single day. Are you ready for today's test? Give it your best shot and comment your score. The top 5 scorers will be featured in our monthly Achievers newsletter and awards. Want your name included? Let's begin.
What advice would you give this newcomer about the best ways to improve their English quickly while living in Canada? Begin speaking now.
I think you should try a few things to improve your English quickly. First, you should sign up for free English classes. Many community centers in Toronto offer ESL programs, and they are really helpful. Also, try to talk to your neighbors and coworkers in English every day. Watching Canadian TV shows is another good idea because you can learn common expressions. I also suggest going to the local library because they have conversation circles where you can practice speaking with other people. If you do these things regularly, your English will get much better in a short time.
I'd strongly recommend taking a multi-pronged approach to improving your English here in Canada. To begin with, you should enroll in a government-funded LINK program, which offers free language instruction tailored specifically for newcomers. Beyond formal classes, I'd encourage you to immerse yourself in English daily by volunteering at a local community organization, as this exposes you to natural conversation. Additionally, joining a conversation circle at your neighborhood library would give you a safe space to practice without pressure. It's equally important to consume Canadian media, podcasts, news broadcasts, and television, so you pick up local idioms and cultural references. Finally, don't hesitate to ask people to correct your mistakes, because that feedback is invaluable for rapid improvement.
I'd wholeheartedly recommend adopting a comprehensive strategy that combines structured learning with authentic, real-world immersion. First and foremost, enrolling in a federally funded LINK program would provide you with a solid grammatical foundation while connecting you with fellow newcomers who share similar goals. However, classroom learning alone won't be sufficient. You'll need to actively seek out opportunities for meaningful interaction. Volunteering with organizations like Habitat for Humanity or a neighborhood food bank, for instance, would place you in situations where communication is purposeful rather than artificial. I'd also suggest leveraging technology by using language exchange apps to pair up with a Canadian who wants to learn your mother tongue, creating a mutually beneficial arrangement. Furthermore, attending cultural events such as neighborhood festivals or public lectures exposes you to diverse registers of English. The key is consistency. Even 15 minutes of deliberate practice daily will compound into remarkable progress over several months.
How would you respond to this newcomer who is resistant to your advice and insists that watching online videos alone is enough to improve their English in Canada? Begin speaking now.
I understand you like learning from videos, and that is okay. But I think only watching videos is not enough. You need to practice speaking with real people too. When you talk to someone face to face, you learn things that videos cannot teach you, like how to respond quickly. Also, in link classes, the teachers help you with pronunciation and grammar mistakes. You don't have to stop watching videos. You can do both things at the same time. I really want to help you because I know how hard it is. Please just try one class and see if you like it.
I completely respect your preference for learning through videos. They're definitely a useful resource, and I'm not suggesting you abandon them. However, I'd like you to consider that language acquisition research consistently shows that passive listening alone doesn't develop conversational fluency. Think about it this way: you could watch hundreds of hours of hockey coverage, but that wouldn't make you a skilled player without actual ice time. Similarly, real-time conversation forces your brain to process and produce language under pressure, which is a fundamentally different skill. What concerns me is that without practicing with native speakers, you might develop listening comprehension but struggle significantly in job interviews or everyday interactions. Would you be willing to compromise and attend just one conversation circle at the library? You might be pleasantly surprised by how enjoyable it is.
I genuinely appreciate that you found a method that feels comfortable, and I'd never dismiss the value of online resources. They certainly have their place in language learning. That said, I feel compelled to point out a critical distinction between passive comprehension and active communicative competence. Watching videos predominantly develops your receptive skills, which is wonderful, but it does very little to build the productive fluency you'll inevitably need in professional and social contexts here in Canada. Consider the practical implications. When you attend a job interview, interact with your landlord about a lease agreement, or navigate a medical appointment, you'll need to formulate responses spontaneously, a skill that can only be honed through authentic practice. I'm not asking you to overhaul your entire approach, rather, I'm suggesting you supplement what's already working with interactive opportunities. Perhaps we could attend a community conversation circle together this Saturday. I'd be happy to accompany you so it feels less intimidating. Ultimately, combining both strategies would accelerate your progress far more effectively than relying on either one in isolation.
Describe what you see happening in this neighborhood street market scene in as much detail as possible. Begin speaking now.
In this picture, I can see a busy street market on a sunny day. There are many colorful tents and tables along both sides of the street. Some vendors are selling fresh fruits and vegetables, and one person is selling flowers. There are many shoppers walking around and carrying bags. In the middle, a woman with a stroller is looking at some baked goods. On the left side, two men are talking and drinking coffee. There is also a musician playing guitar near a tree. Everyone looks happy and relaxed. The street has banners hanging above, and the weather looks warm and pleasant.
This lively scene captures a bustling neighborhood street market on what appears to be a gorgeous weekend morning. The entire street has been transformed into a vibrant marketplace, lined with dozens of vendor stalls draped in brightly colored canopies, reds, yellows, and greens, creating a festive atmosphere. In the foreground, a middle-aged vendor is enthusiastically arranging baskets of locally grown strawberries and peaches, while a young couple beside her carefully examines artisanal cheese selections. Moving toward the center, a diverse crowd of shoppers fills the walkway, many carrying reusable tote bags overflowing with fresh produce. To the right, a food truck is serving what looks like freshly grilled corn, with a small queue forming in front of it. In the background, a street musician strums an acoustic guitar while children dance nearby. The overhead string lights and hand-painted signage give the entire market a charming, community-oriented feel.
This wonderfully animated scene depicts a thriving neighborhood street market that perfectly encapsulates the multicultural spirit of a Canadian community. The entire block has been pedestrianized for the occasion, with an impressive array of vendor stalls stretching as far as the eye can see, their colorful awnings creating a patchwork canopy against the brilliant blue sky. In the immediate foreground, an elderly woman of South Asian descent is meticulously arranging an exquisite display of handcrafted jewelry, her stall adorned with intricate textiles that catch the morning sunlight. Adjacent to her, a young francophone farmer, identifiable by the bilingual signage on his booth, proudly showcases organic root vegetables still dusted with garden soil. The central thoroughfare teems with a remarkably diverse cross-section of the community. Families with strollers navigate between stalls, a group of teenagers share freshly squeezed lemonade, and an elderly couple pauses to admire a watercolor painting displayed by a local artist. Off to the right, the tantalizing smoke rising from a Caribbean jerk chicken stand draws a steadily growing queue. The background reveals a heritage brick building whose fire escape has been decorated with hanging flower baskets, while overhead, hand-strung Edison bulbs promise an equally enchanting evening atmosphere.
What do you predict will happen to fuel stations and auto mechanics in Canada as electric vehicles become more common, and why? Begin speaking now.
I think electric vehicles will change things a lot in Canada. First, I predict that many gas stations will close because fewer people will need gasoline. Some gas stations might add electric charging stations to stay in business. For mechanics, I think their jobs will change too. Electric cars have different parts, so mechanics will need to learn new skills. Some older mechanics might have trouble with this change. I also think the government will probably create training programs to help workers. Overall, I believe this change will be slow but steady, and it will take many years before gas stations disappear completely from Canadian roads.
I anticipate that the rise of electric vehicles will fundamentally reshape Canada's automotive service landscape over the coming decade. Regarding fuel stations, I predict we'll witness a significant consolidation, particularly in urban centers like Vancouver and Montreal where EV adoption rates are already climbing. Many traditional gas stations will likely pivot their business models, transforming into multi-purpose charging hubs that incorporate coffee shops, co-working spaces, or convenience retail to keep customers engaged during charging times. Rural stations, however, may survive longer due to the slower adoption of EVs in remote communities. As for mechanics, the profession will undergo a dramatic skills transition. Since electric vehicles contain far fewer moving parts and don't require oil changes or exhaust system repairs, demand for traditional mechanical work will steadily decline. Conversely, there will be growing demand for technicians specializing in battery diagnostics, software systems, and high-voltage electrical components. I expect Canadian colleges will rapidly expand their EV-specific certification programs to meet this emerging need.
I foresee a profound and multifaceted transformation of Canada's automotive infrastructure that will unfold in distinct phases over the next decade. In the near term, fuel stations in metropolitan corridors, particularly along the Trans-Canada Highway and within major cities like Toronto, Calgary, and Halifax, will face mounting pressure to diversify. The most forward-thinking operators will reinvent themselves as comprehensive mobility hubs, integrating Level 3 rapid charging stations alongside amenities such as premium lounges, grocery pickup points, and even healthcare kiosks, effectively capitalizing on the 20 to 30-minute charging window. Those that fail to adapt, especially independently owned stations in suburban areas, will almost certainly face closure, potentially creating localized economic disruption in communities that depend on them. The implications for auto mechanics are equally consequential but perhaps more nuanced. While the reduced mechanical complexity of EVs, fewer moving parts, no transmission fluid, no catalytic converters, will inevitably diminish demand for conventional repair work, it will simultaneously generate substantial demand for highly specialized technicians versed in lithium-ion battery management, regenerative braking calibration, and integrated software diagnostics. I predict that the Canadian trades certification system will need to undergo its most significant overhaul in decades to accommodate this paradigm shift, and that provinces like Quebec and British Columbia, which already lead in EV adoption, will serve as bellwethers for the rest of the country.
Compare the two job offers and persuade your sister which one she should accept and why. Begin speaking now.
I think you should take the bank job in Toronto. First, a large bank gives you more job security than a startup. Startups can be risky, and some of them don't last very long. Second, the salary is higher, which will help you pay your rent and save money. Toronto also has better public transit, so commuting is easier. The startup sounds interesting, but I think starting your career at a well-known company is a smarter choice. You can always try a startup later once you have more experience.
I'd strongly recommend accepting the marketing coordinator position at the bank, and here's why. While the startup offers flexibility, the bank provides significantly better job security and a higher salary, which matters a lot when you're starting your career in an expensive city like Toronto. Additionally, having a reputable financial institution on your resume will open far more doors in the future. The networking opportunities in Toronto's financial district are unmatched compared to a remote position where you'd be working from home. I understand the appeal of flexible hours, but at this stage in your career, professional growth and stability should take priority over convenience.
I genuinely believe the marketing coordinator role at the bank would be the superior choice, and I'd love to explain my reasoning. From a financial standpoint, the higher salary is crucial given Ontario's rising cost of living, particularly in the Greater Toronto Area. Beyond compensation, though, establishing yourself at a major Canadian financial institution carries tremendous weight in the job market. It's the kind of credential that recruiters immediately recognize. In contrast, while the Kitchener-Waterloo startup certainly offers appealing flexibility, startups inherently carry more risk, and remote work at the beginning of your career could limit the mentorship and in-person collaboration that are so valuable for professional development. Furthermore, Toronto's vibrant professional community would allow you to build a network that could benefit you for decades. The startup opportunity may present itself again later, but this bank position is too strong a foundation to pass up.
What would you do and say to deal with this difficult situation? Begin speaking now.
I would talk to my coworker privately after the meeting. I'd say something like, "Hey, I noticed that during the presentation, my contributions to the project weren't mentioned. I put a lot of effort into the research, and I think it's important that we both get recognized for our work." If they don't respond well, I would speak to my manager and explain what happened. I'd also keep records of my work going forward, like emails and documents, to protect myself in the future.
First, I'd approach my coworker calmly and privately, perhaps over coffee in the break room, to address the issue directly. I might say, I appreciated your presentation, but I was disappointed that my contributions to the research and strategy weren't acknowledged. I believe we should both receive proper credit for our respective roles in the project. I'd give them a chance to explain, since there might have been a misunderstanding. However, if this behavior continued, I wouldn't hesitate to bring it to my manager's attention with supporting documentation, such as email threads and draft versions showing my involvement. Going forward, I'd also make a habit of sending summary emails after collaborative work to create a clear paper trail.
I'd handle this situation carefully, as maintaining a professional relationship is just as important as standing up for myself. My first step would be to arrange a private, one-on-one conversation with my coworker in a neutral setting, perhaps suggesting we grab a coffee at the cafe downstairs. I'd open by acknowledging their presentation skills before addressing my concern directly. I want to be straightforward with you. The research and strategic framework you presented were largely my contributions, and I was quite taken aback that this wasn't mentioned. I value our working relationship, and I'd like us to find a way to ensure proper attribution moving forward. I'd listen to their perspective with an open mind, as there may be factors I'm not aware of. If the behavior persisted despite this conversation, I would escalate the matter professionally by scheduling a meeting with our team lead, bringing concrete evidence such as version-controlled documents, email correspondence, and project timelines. Ultimately, I'd also advocate for clearer team protocols around crediting individual contributions to prevent similar situations.
Do you think post-secondary education in Canada should be free? What is your opinion and why? Begin speaking now.
In my opinion, post-secondary education in Canada should be free. Many young Canadians struggle with student debt after graduating, and this makes it hard for them to buy homes or start families. If education were free, more people could attend college or university regardless of their family's income. Some people argue it would cost too much, but I think the government could fund it through higher taxes on wealthy corporations. An educated population benefits everyone because it leads to better jobs and a stronger economy overall.
I firmly believe that post-secondary education should be free for all Canadian residents, and I have several reasons for this view. First and foremost, the current system creates a significant barrier for low-income families, which contradicts Canada's values of equality and inclusivity. Students graduating with tens of thousands of dollars in debt face enormous financial pressure that delays major life milestones like homeownership. Moreover, countries like Germany and Norway have demonstrated that free tuition is achievable and leads to a more skilled workforce. Critics often raise concerns about the cost to taxpayers. However, I'd argue that the long-term economic returns, higher tax revenue from better-paying jobs and reduced reliance on social assistance, would more than justify the investment.
I hold the strong conviction that making post-secondary education free in Canada would be a transformative and ultimately beneficial policy decision, though I recognize the complexity of implementing it. The most compelling argument in favor is one of equity. Canada prides itself on being an inclusive society, yet our current system disproportionately disadvantages Indigenous communities, new immigrants, and low-income families who cannot shoulder the burden of rising tuition fees. Eliminating these financial barriers would democratize access to education and help close persistent socioeconomic gaps. From an economic perspective, the investment would yield substantial returns. A more highly educated workforce drives innovation, attracts foreign investment, and generates greater tax revenue over time. Nordic countries such as Finland and Denmark serve as excellent models, consistently ranking among the world's most competitive economies while offering free university education. I acknowledge that funding such a program would require significant fiscal restructuring, potentially through progressive taxation or reallocation of existing budgets, but the long-term societal dividends in terms of reduced inequality, improved mental health outcomes, and enhanced global competitiveness make a compelling case that far outweighs the short-term costs.
Describe what you see, what is happening, and how people in your neighborhood are reacting to this unusual event. Begin speaking now.
Last Saturday, I was walking near the park in my neighborhood when I saw something very unusual. There were large trucks and bright lights everywhere, and a film crew was setting up cameras outside our local coffee shop. I couldn't believe it when I saw Ryan Gosling standing right there, talking to the director. My neighbors were all gathering on the sidewalk, taking photos with their phones. Some children were really excited and waving at him. The crew asked us to be quiet during filming. It was an amazing experience, and everyone in the neighborhood was talking about it for days afterwards.
I witnessed the most extraordinary scene in my quiet neighborhood last Saturday morning. As I was heading to the farmer's market, I noticed several enormous production trucks lining our usually peaceful residential street. A full film crew had completely taken over the corner coffee shop and the adjacent park, with professional lighting rigs, cameras on dollies, and cables running across the sidewalk. To my absolute amazement, I spotted a world-famous Canadian actor rehearsing a scene on the park bench where I normally read my morning newspaper. The entire neighborhood had come alive with excitement, elderly couples were peering through their curtains, teenagers were live streaming on their phones, and a small crowd had gathered behind the barricades, whispering excitedly. The local shop owners seemed thrilled, hoping the exposure might boost tourism. It was genuinely surreal to see Hollywood-level production happening right on our doorstep.
What I witnessed last Saturday morning in my ordinarily unremarkable neighborhood was nothing short of surreal, and it's something I'll remember for years to come. As I stepped outside for my usual morning walk, I was immediately struck by the transformation of our quiet tree-lined street. Enormous white production trailers were parked bumper to bumper along the curb, thick cables snaked across the pavement, and crew members wearing headsets were rushing about with extraordinary purpose. The centerpiece of it all was our beloved neighborhood coffee shop, which had been meticulously redecorated to look like a vintage 1960s diner, complete with retro signage and antique furniture visible through the windows. Standing in front of it, surrounded by makeup artists and an entourage of assistants, was an internationally renowned Canadian actor, casually sipping what appeared to be a double-double from Tim Hortons between takes. The neighborhood's reaction was absolutely priceless. My next-door neighbor, Mrs. Chen, was practically trembling with excitement behind the security barriers, while a group of teenagers across the street were frantically texting everyone they knew. Even our normally indifferent letter carrier had stopped mid-route to watch the spectacle unfold. The entire community was buzzing with an electric energy that completely transformed our sleepy Saturday morning into something truly magical.
Before you go, don't forget to like this video, share it with other test takers, and subscribe so you never miss your daily IELTS and CELPIP tests. Drop your score in the comments. Your name could be featured in our monthly Achievers newsletter. Stay consistent, stay focused, and keep leveling up with MasterPrep.